Ready?
Yeah.
Set, go.
Hey everybody, I'm Ethan.
And I'm Steven.
And today we're going to be checking out the Taiga Nomad electric snowmobiles.
Next on Now Let's Review.
Taiga has three models of snowmobiles: the Echo, which is their mountain sled, the Atlas, which is their crossover, and the Nomad, which is their utility sled. We were only able to test out the Nomad sleds at this event, but hopefully sometime in the future we'll be able to test out all of their models. The Nomad sleds come in two versions, the Standard and the Performance, and we were testing the Performance. The Performance model is driven by a 90 kilowatt, 120 horsepower motor that delivers 125 foot-pounds of torque. The Nomad puts the power down through a 154 by 15 by 2.5 inch track. There are two drive modes, which are Eco and Sport. Eco is not surprisingly meant for maximizing the range, while Sport offers the full power delivery. Naturally, I had the sled in Sport as soon as I was allowed to, and was having a blast utilizing the full acceleration that the Nomad has to offer. Alright, so Steven, we've both grown up riding, dirt bikes, snowmobiles, all that kind of stuff. What do you think about the riding experience on the Taiga sleds versus, your typical gas sled?
Well, being in so many electric vehicles nowadays, it wasn't surprising, but it was still surprising.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's exciting to see that, especially in a form factor that you've known your entire life. And it's like, okay, you've got your instant torque, your instant acceleration, the quietness.
Yeah.
Those were the two things that really just kind of stood out and blew both our minds,
Yeah,
quite frankly.
Definitely. Yeah, the instant torque is crazy because, with a typical sled, you've got your CVT, which when you give it gas, basically the engine has to spool up and then engage the CVT, so you have a delay between when you actually apply the throttle and when you get a response from it. But yeah, with the Nomad sleds, it was just instant. As soon as you hit the throttle, that thing was moving.
Yeah, it was a rocket, man.
In terms of speed, how does it compare to like other sleds that you've ridden in the past?
I mean, we didn't get to really do a top speed run, but in terms of how quickly it got there for acceleration, I mean, I've been on 1,000cc snowmobiles for a while. I went from 800 to 1000s, and I'm like, okay, this thing, it just goes.
Yeah.
It just goes. No, I think for a good comparison, it's like when snowmobiles, I mean, I'm showing my age here, but when snowmobiles went from 2-stroke to 4-stroke, the Yamaha RX-1 was one of the first sleds that I had that was a 4-stroke, and it was a Yamaha R1 motorcycle engine that was stuffed into a bike, and people were like, well, that's excessive. And it was a 570 pounds or something. Like, it was extremely heavy for a snowmobile, which obviously the Taigas are much heavier because when you're dealing with batteries versus internal combustion engine and then the motors in that, they're way heavier.
Yeah.
So that was a heavy machine, but it had a 1,000cc motor in it, and it didn't feel that heavy, and neither did the Taigas either.
Yeah, that's a good point because I mean, I think the Taiga sleds weigh almost 700 pounds, which is like really heavy, and they carried their weight really well. It didn't really feel like you were lugging around a giant sluggish machine or anything. The suspension was really good too at handling, all that mass of the battery and everything, and it definitely rode like it was lighter than it actually is.
Yeah, no, it was probably the most remarkable part was like, even though you knew the weight, you're like, it didn't feel anything like that whatsoever.
I would have loved to have an opportunity to kind of take them in deeper snow and, get them leaned over, have one ski up in the air, kind of like carve the side of a hill or something, because that's where you're really going to notice the weight of a sled.
Right. But
again, based on the riding that we did,
yeah, we got to beat it around the trails enough to at least we got the feel for what it was like in the corners.
Exactly.
We were on those real sinuous trailheads, and it was just like, okay, this does not feel any different.
Braking is done either with the Hayes disc brakes or by regenerative braking from the motor. For the most part, I was using the regen braking to slow down, but would use the disc brakes to come to a complete stop. With 8.8 inches of front suspension travel and 11.8 inches of rear suspension travel, the ride is as comfortable as it is fast. Maneuverability is surprisingly good considering this sled weighs 694 pounds. For context, the average gas-powered sled weighs around 500 pounds. Because the Taiga sleds use a direct drive system instead of the typical CVT found on gas snowmobiles, the acceleration and torque delivery are instant, smooth, and extremely controllable.
Tell you what,
fun being behind somebody though with open face.
Oh, I'm sure. This has no protection either. This is for dirt bikes.
Of the ride, we'll take it easy.
Yeah. Is the same type of engagement for clutch or
No clutch.
no clutch?
Straight direct drive.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely love that. No wasted energy.
And I mean, that's the thing with the normal sleds. You got to get like halfway through the throttle before the thing starts really picking up.
Definitely.
And,
And you know what a big advantage of what you just said is towing. When you do a heavy charge, you push, RPM goes up, then you start spinning right away, so there's no traction.
Exactly, yeah.
These, you can literally, like, you could do it right now. You can literally crawl at less than 1 kilometer an hour.
Yeah.
If you get it just right, you'll like crawl.
Yeah, it's just got to break that first traction.
See it, right? Like you're going really slow right now. So if you're doing something really heavy, you have impeccable traction.
And
right
what is
now.
the towing capacity of these?
I think we
1,100 pounds.
Yeah, we rated
Wow, okay, yeah.
1,100 pounds.
Awesome.
And then you have 100, I think I told you guys this earlier, but having 170 Newton meters of torque.
Yeah. You definitely feel it.
And another thing for the throttle is it's super linear.
Yeah.
Like normal snowmobiles, you'll have your max torque at like 9,000 RPM.
Yeah.
So like it accelerates, and then boom, it accelerates a lot, whereas ours is like predictable. You know?
Yeah.
And then something that's great too is if you guys have one, you'll have the access to the app as well.
Okay.
And some of these settings you'll be able to customize.
Oh, cool. So you can set like your
if you
acceleration
have
and
your kid
brake.
going on it, and you want it to be safe, disable sport mode, disable whatever.
Yeah.
You can have a custom mode with a lower speed, lower everything. And same for ski resorts, the fleet manager doesn't want the employees to go. A lot of ski resorts have a speed limit.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you enforce that on a normal snowmobile? It's really hard. You could set these at a maximum speed and that's just it.
Right.
Can't go faster.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, I see 100% these like taking over every ski resort because you don't need the gas sleds there. You're not going super far. Like the 80-mile range would be perfect for that.
Yeah.
Like,
And they already have a set, like they know exactly what they do in a day,
Yeah, yeah.
right? And they can easily calculate that, and they have high voltage already on site.
right. Just charge it during lunch or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
The Nomad sleds are loaded with features. They have heated grips, can connect to LTE, Wi-Fi, and Bluetooth, receive over-the-air updates, and have customizable rider profiles. They feature a 7-inch color LCD display that shows all kinds of information, including the speed, RPM, battery temperature, motor temperature, kilowatt output, ride mode, battery level, odometer, and more. The performance models have a 23 kilowatt hour battery that offers a claimed range of 83 miles. We didn't have time to test the range, but even if the full 83 miles can be achieved, that range is still too short for many applications.
Snowmobiles kind of category into multiple different types of people, where you have the person that's going to use their sled recreationally, kind of beat around their yard or take out their kids or whatnot, or ice fishing. It's like you're at your cabin, lake house, wherever you may be, you're out there, you're waiting for the flag to go up on the ice, you bomb the sled to it, and then you go right back. You can plug it in. It's easy. Then you've got the snowmobiles that go on the long haul trips, which I don't know if you did a lot of those yourself.
Generally when I was riding, it would be kind of the longer haul trips because we did live like right next to the snowmobile trails in New Hampshire. So I mean, a lot of what I was doing was that. And living in New England, that's kind of the culture around here is people definitely like to, for the most part when they're going out, they want to go for like 100, 200 miles in a day. They want to really go. And with these sleds, you can't do that. You're topped at 80 miles of range with the performance version. And like you said, the use case for these sleds is more of a kind of like ice fishing, putting around your property if you have trails on your property kind of thing. Whereas if you're gonna go longer distance, you're probably not gonna be able to use the Taiga sleds the way you want to.
Right, because I mean, we could go to Canada on the Snowmobile International Superhighway that is New Hampshire, which is one of the cool parts about where we live. You know, it's like, it's one of the most trail systems in the country, I believe.
Yeah, I think it has, I don't remember how many exactly. It has thousands of miles of snowmobile trails, more snowmobile trail miles than highway miles.
Which it says a lot about the state and the adoption that's there. I mean, like where I live up, our family home up on the lake, like we have one of the only places that has an access road where most people year round, they have to have a sled to get to their home. And it's like, okay, this is a way of life. Gas stations have half of it plowed off where cars can go in and fuel up, or trucks, and then you've got your snowmobile section. You know, I mean, like our road is half plowed road, and then there's a snowmobile trail. But yeah, I think that's one of the main concerns that I have with the machine, because I've done trips to Canada. You know, it's like you're going state to state, like you can go anywhere, but if you have a sled that's gonna need to sit and charge, you know, for a big group of people, you better all be on EVs, because everybody's fueling up.
You don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, hey, hold on, can we hang out here, have hot chocolate for like another hour, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
It definitely isn't the ideal long distance trip sled.
But for beating around and go, like, we had a blast. I
Oh
mean,
my
we rode
God.
for hours and like that was perfect.
Level 1 and Level 2 charging come as standard, but you can get optional Level 3 charging. The charge time is 14 hours at Level 1, 3.5 hours at Level 2, and 30 minutes for 80% charge at Level 3. So these sleds are quiet, but they're not silent. With an EV like an electric snowmobile, where you have kind of an exposed drivetrain, you're gonna hear a lot of that drivetrain noise. The Taiga sleds made a very audible, kind of like mechanical whirring sound, which was fine. I honestly appreciate the fact that it makes some noise because...
Sounded like an angry power drill.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it was a pretty cool noise, I have to say,
Yeah.
but like also, you're gonna probably be riding if you're going out on a sled in like public areas, on public trails and stuff. So it's probably good that the sleds make some noise to alert, you know, your cross-country skiers and stuff that might also be on the trail that something is coming.
Right, you're gonna wanna have the deer whistle on the front of that, because if you're descending down a mountain, I mean, like, you could stalk wildlife like nothing. I mean, whenever we were off the throttle, that was the coolest part.
Yeah,
'Cause it's
yeah.
just like, you hear nothing but the snow shuffling from the paddles of the tread.
Exactly,
And
yeah.
it was the neatest thing.
I'm not even in reverse. Check me out.
It's cool because you don't hear that on a normal sled.
Right.
When you let off the gas on a normal sled, you've got like the engine braking and everything, and just or the two strokes just like brum, 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 as you slowing
Yep.
down. But yeah, you don't get to hear the kind of intricate little sounds of all the mechanical bits and pieces
Right.
doing their jobs.
Yeah, no, and that's just one of the real pluses for EVs out of that, is the fact that you'll have accessibility to so many areas that are like, oh, the noise pollution.
Why do so many trail systems get canceled? It's because of noise for the most part.
Right.
I know the dirt bike trails that I grew up riding on are no longer public access because people have complained about the amount of noise and they're shut down now, which sucks.
Wide pipe two strokes, just
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, like that. And if you've ever heard a snowmobile, you've probably heard it from like a mile or
Yep.
two away because they're very loud. People take them, they open up the pipes and they like to make a lot of noise with them. But with these Taiga sleds, assuming you can get the range up eventually and you can replace the gas sleds with the EVs, as far as, you know, you're going for a journey sled, you could probably open up a lot more trail systems than there are right now.
Yeah, trail systems, just areas in general. I mean, like, yeah, you go across a wide open lake, you hear that 3 cylinders just. Like, I mean, brap is a term in the snowmobile community because of that. It's just, that's what it is. It's just a loud brap noise. It's wild to think that that can change in the next decade.
Yeah. If you want a Nomad for yourself, I certainly hope that you have a pretty sizable savings account. The standard model starts at $17,490 US, and the performance model starts at $19,490.
The price of admission is high. To hit your ROI with fuel savings, it's still going to be a while because, I mean, a typical new sled, I mean, you're looking at what, 10 to 12 for entry point.
Yeah, it depends on obviously motor size
lot
and
of
everything,
things,
but
yeah.
like, yeah, I would say probably like $7,000 and up is what you're going to be looking at for new sleds.
Right.
And like, you know, for $10,000 more than that, you can buy one of the Taiga sleds.
Right.
And like, obviously it is hard to justify that initial price if it's not like, if you don't have the ability to just write a check for that kind of vehicle, which I feel like most people don't, it's going to be a hard purchase to justify.
Sure.
In the sense of like, well, I want a snowmobile, but I don't have that kind of money. I'll just get a gas sled. Obviously, like you said, eventually, over the lifetime of owning that vehicle, you are going to pay for the difference in cost by fuel savings and maintenance savings.
Right.
But that is a lot
It's
of
a
fuel and
significant
maintenance.
amount still, yeah, absolutely. Which is, I mean, that's a big thing to come up against, where it's just like, okay, is it going to be worth it to you? I mean, if it's something that is the long haul, absolutely.
And I see no reason why these sleds wouldn't be able to stay functional for your lifetime, probably. Like,
Right.
There's so little that can go wrong with them because it's just the battery, the motor, and the drivetrain. And like with a gas sled, obviously you have the engine, which in itself has hundreds and thousands of like little components that can go wrong and completely screw up your ride.
Yeah, how many times have you been broke down on the side of that?
I actually,
I was gonna
a
say.
couple times.
Yeah, you know, I was like, been there.
When I had my Polaris 550 Super Sport, I was doing about 65 on the snowmobile trail near my house, and all of a sudden it just started sputtering and just died. I was like, oh shit, and just kept, you know, slowing down. Luckily it just came to a stop and this track didn't seize up or anything, but like we had to limp it back. We got it running on one cylinder because it was a twin, and limped it back to my house, and that was That was scary, but yeah, that's the kind of issue that unless like some major component of the drivetrain snaps off on the Taiga sled, you're not going to run into that kind of issue.
That's a big one. I mean, most of the things that are going to pull you down are breaking a belt, melting a piston, spark plug getting faulty, fuel mixture being shit.
But yeah, I mean, those are little things that you're not going to run into. And obviously people who know about EVs know all these arguments, but like for people who are not as into EVs as we are, these are things that like you need to hear and think about if you're going to consider adopting one. As much as I might complain about the price, these are definitely things that I would love to have. Like if money wasn't an issue, I would gladly take one of these sleds. Probably even over a gas sled. Just the experience that I was given with these sleds was something that would honestly change my mind about what kind of snowmobile to purchase.
Yeah, no, I think at the end of the day, we have to give a lot of credit to Taiga for stepping it up. I mean, I know that's no easy feat. I build electric vehicles, that's what I do. And to see that they've come out first with an electric sled, give them all the credit in the world. It's absolutely awesome to see.
And I'm hoping that they'll be the first of many. You know, obviously it's impressive that they're the first to get it done. Like they are the only electric snowmobile company, and I'm hoping that they've proven that it's doable and that it's worth it and that other companies are going to follow suit. So hopefully they are the industry leaders and will kind of just push this whole industry forward.
Yeah, for sure. They're the Tesla of jet skis and sleds right now.
Yeah. All right, well, thank you guys very much for watching our review of the Taiga Nomad snowmobiles. Steven, thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for
having me. It's been a pleasure. Steven has a channel. He's part of Rich Rebuilds. You can go check that out if you want. They've got some mildly interesting
We
content.
build weird things, yeah.
No, they're awesome. Definitely check them out. And if you want to check out other reviews of electric vehicles like bikes, scooters, electric longboards, we're going to do some cars and motorcycles soon as well. Definitely subscribe to the channel. Also hit the like button. It helps us out a lot. And we'll catch you next time. Now let's review.
Later.